amount of energy, the amount of resource that I had to expend, that I had to put together. So you would imagine these are the three areas in which we spend a lot of time, a lot of resource, a lot of effort to pull it through. Yeah. So that's investigation, and that investigation took place for a long time. So in Singapore, as I mentioned, there was an independent investigation by the ministry, and everything came to an end in April 2002. SQ006 was on 31st October 2000. So we would imagine it's more than a year after we've gone through in and out of investigation that the investigation report was being released, right? Now, while that is happening, you have the prosecution. Prosecution and investigation are two different issues. Investigation, the agenda of investigation is to find out what are the factors involved in an accident and therefore not repeat it, right? It has got nothing to do about liability, trying to find who are the affected parties, and all that. Whereas in an prosecution and legal procedures, it's totally different, right? So in this case, you would imagine in prosecution, it is I call it a multi-jurisdiction issue here. You know, I explain why. Because the aircraft is owned by a Singapore company. It is operated by a Singapore company. The location of incident is in Taipei, Taiwan. The manufacturer of the aircraft or item in question is made by the Americans in US. So you realize that there are different jurisdictions now being pulled into play, right? And becomes very, very complicated because different parties will have their own motivation and their own things that they want to achieve, right? So I remember prosecution by Taiwanese. There was a Taoyuan, we call it Taoyuan prosecutor judicial body that had launched the prosecution, and it was very quick. By the first morning, on the 1st of November, we were there facing the prosecutor, and the prosecutor has really started his interview, right? Questioning, sourcing out information from the flight crew. Right? And henceforth, from that day as well, we had to keep going in for numerous meetings with the prosecutor. Right? I remember also meeting lawyers. So I just broadly, there were many lawyers that we had to meet. We had the lawyers who represented the pilots from the company, and you would understand that because it is in Taipei, you cannot fly your lawyers from Singapore. Okay, so these are licensing issues with regards to legal practices, right? So only Taiwanese lawyers are able to represent Singaporeans like me up there, for example, right? And that really happened. And we had lawyers who represented us back in Singapore. That's when we came back. So we had another set of lawyers there by the company. We had lawyers who represented us, provided by the ALPA-S, the Airline Transport Pilots Association. The ATP, yeah, right. ALPA-S, Airline Transport Pilots Association, yeah. That's an association that represents pilots. Yeah. And they say that no, we need you to be represented, right? And because you represent all of us, the pilots, right? We even met lawyers that came down from IFALPA, International Federation Airline Pilots Association. Now that's a global body. That's an association that represents global pilots. Yeah, and they too had a say. they too were part of the investigations and the process. And not forgetting lawyers who represent the insurers, right? They were Americans and they were also uh, English, because you have to track back who are the underwriters and all that. Okay. So, but the idea is that we had to go in and meet different lawyers at different times, and sometimes even at the different times of a day. And so you would imagine, that different parties would have different concerns, different issues, and therefore it's pretty much like what my table now is. It's full of notes, all right, for different things. And we had to be very sure when we go in for the interview to share what we want to share, right? So there's a fair amount of brain twisting, confusion. Let me tell you, it's confusion many times, and trying to understand and trying to decide, right? What to say, what to share with the different parties, right? And it's legal because everything that's mentioned is all taken down, right? And just to share with you that the lawyers we met in Taipei, on the 1st of November, who were engaged by the company. First time when we met, we sat down, the lawyers opened up his file, and he said, "Okay, gentlemen, you are now being charged with criminal negligence. It is a criminal negligence charge, right? That means you are guilty now until you're proven innocent." Now that's the system there, all right? And yeah, sorry, did somebody want to bring up something? So yeah, so in a sense, let me just share with you this slide. Now that issue, we call it criminalization of professional of aviation professionals or of pilots. Today it's being studied, but at that time it was a topic that was very new. But there again, this issue is not new because doctors, surgeons have all along also faced such issues of criminalization. A surgeon going in to do his job the best he can, he's the best in the country, right? But there again, in the process of that surgery, something didn't go right, and he loses his patient, and the patient actually, or the end of case, the doctor gets big sued, right? And so that this is quite common, right? And so it oh doesn't move now. I'm just going to leave it on this page, yeah. So yeah, so this is quite common. We can talk about this again later, right? Now the third core issue, is so far so good.
Yes, Captain. So far, so good.
Okay, thanks. So the third issue was, I remember I wrote down there, is actually industrial and employment issues. So all along, while these things are happening, the interviews are taking place while we're in Taipei, we are thinking, do I still have a job? I'm actually, I remember even among three of us, the pilots, we were looking and we said, hey, are we still with the company? Because nobody dares to speak to us about it. Right? Because everybody is also trying to find out what to do next and how. And so I remember asking, hey, are we still with the company? I'm sure we are. So the answer is yes. In fact, throughout the whole SQ006 episode, the company supported us, right? They still provided a salary so that we could go from month to month, right? And the only thing was that when the investigation report was released and the prosecution, I didn't cover that during the prosecution. They had to come to a decision in May 2002. So you would imagine why May, because in April they had finish the investigation report. So the investigation report comes up with a document. The prosecutor now actually gets hold of that report. It becomes one of his evidence, and based on that and all the other evidence that he has gathered, he makes a decision on the fate of the pilots, right? And what happened was they proceeded with what they call a non-prosecution order. Non-prosecution order. Those of you who are familiar with the legal proceedings, right, of one stage next to it, from charges to prosecution to sentencing and all that, you realize that prosecution is before you're being sentenced. So in short, we were not we were not sentenced, we were not charged. So the charge was in a way stop short there, right? The prosecution was not even to the prosecution, it stopped short of the prosecution. So there was no prosecution, right? So in that sense, we survived the legal proceedings or the legal implications, right? But we didn't survive the job because based on all these, in July 2002, the company took a decision to terminate the pilots. Right? They terminated the guy on the left seat, they terminated me, but they retained the third pilot, right? So that was the decision of the company. It was a termination. They exercised the termination clause, and so we were no more with the company from July 2002. Right? I remember also now what other industrial issues and employment issues. Can you imagine as all these things happening? What do you think is in the mind of the pilots? Would you hazard a guess while they are going in and out of interviews, being questioned by investigators, by lawyers? What do you think are in the minds of the pilot? What are they grappling with? Anybody would like to hazard a guess or try what was going through our mind during that period? You know, from 1 week to a couple of weeks to a few months.
I have a curious question, Captain, Dr. Helen
Sure,
here. Do we
sure,
have,
Dr. Allen.
it's going to be a bit sensitive. Do you have any suicidal thoughts among you during that time?
No, actually, interesting. Let's visit that question again later, right? Because I will try to tie it in with a couple of other areas. That's a very good question, a very relevant question, right? But I did not have suicidal thoughts or tendencies, um, because truly, from the point of crash, I somehow viewed the whole situation differently, you know. And I remember this because you might just jump my points, because it comes under medical and psychological. When we met up with the counselors, those were the first few questions the counselors are trying to understand and feel and sense, you know, if we had that. And I remember sharing with the counselors, I said, counselors asked, have you ever, are you asking yourself, why, why are you in this or why you? And I remember mentioning to the counselors, I said, of course it's me, you know, why, it's not about why me, it is me, you know, and that I'm still trying to figure out, you know, but I have accepted that this is the happening, this is what I have to experience, but how do I take it from there, you know? So that happened, that thought process started very early on. In fact, it surprised me as well, right? Because later on, as I became an academic, when I started reading, you would imagine the amount of reading I've done into psychology. I realized that, you know, individuals who go through such traumatic incidences and accidents have got a timeline, you know, a certain timeline, a continuum of how you move, how you heal, how you build yourself, and all that. So I don't seem to subscribe or to follow that timeline to a certain extent, or at least from the way I experience it and I share it. Yeah. So does that answer, Dr. Helen?
Yes, Captain. There are a few questions in the chat. Some of them were saying that probably they're going to sue, and probably Dr. Unku here, she's our ex-director. Do you blame yourself? Maybe partly. And Jillian was saying, I would have felt immensely unsettled. Does that resonate with your experience at that time?
Yes, it does. These are very good points. These are very good points. Unsettling, hopelessness, yeah, those emotions and those state are there. Yeah, but disappointment. It was a bit different. Disappointment. Somebody asked, "Did you feel disappointed?" I said, out of all this whole episode, and I don't seem to have that element. Perhaps there is, but I don't seem to feel it. Right? I seem to think that, hey, yeah, take this experience, but I have to figure out what do I need to do with it, and blame. Uh, I cannot say if I did, you know, because if you had gone down that path, and if you read the books on psychology, on self-blame, and it will exhibit certain traits, certain characteristics, right? But yes, I can share with you, for example, how a emotional state can translate to a physical form. I normally share this in my sessions with in mental health. Yeah, that yeah I felt a bit. I can still remember this when my wife came up to me one day. She says, "Can you stand up straight? You know, uh, try to for the sake." And I remember she saying this, for the sake of your kids, for the family. You know, don't slouch, don't slouch, because unknowingly over a period of time I had began slouching, physical form slouching, yeah, right. And I realized that this slouching behavior had manifest itself every time in public, so as much as this at the back of my mind say, okay, stand straight, head on your shoulders and just walk, but unknowingly it does manifest, right? And only external parties, people who are very close to me, my wife, is able to share this, right? And yeah, so only then the realization that, oh, okay, such a thing can take place, right? So I use that as an example, right? Yeah. But self blame is I never, I was not able to express that. Yeah. Does that answer, Dr. Allen?
Yes, I guess so, Captain. Yes. Thank you.
I was the one who was asking the question. Yes,
Yeah.
that's answered. Thank you very much. And one more thing, were you provided with any counseling by maybe your company or anything like that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. I can share with you because it comes on in the next peripheral issues under medical and psychological. In that area, the company provided support in terms of counselors, even psychologists, and so we had the opportunity to meet individuals right up till even the psychiatrists, right? And even in the lifting of our licenses, when you have to come back to fly, you have to go through a psychological testing. Yeah. So it was actually support that was quite comprehensive. Yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks
Captain.
for that question. Yeah. In fact, if I may add on to that support, since we are on that topic, um, from the onset, fresh point, we have support like in the airline, they call it the buddy system. Different airlines call it differently. You know, here now I'm with the present airline. We have developed even more comprehensive support system. We call it the season peer support system. Yeah, and we look at it from a different perspective. We design it also from a different perspective because we know that in order for you to even help your customers, we got to help ourselves first. the internal customers must be strong before you are able to help your external customers. Thanks for the questions. Yeah. So can I just very quickly
Thank you
go
for
through
the explanation.
I go through the peripheral issues. You see, I'm trying to move my slide, but it won't move. Okay. In the peripheral issues, you'll find there are a couple of topics: media and public relations, security issues, aviation human factors, and as I mentioned, medical issues, medical and psychological. Right? Media issues are very widespread. You cannot run from the media. That's the lesson learned. What happened there in Taiwan? We felt very open. We are an open target. We are not in your own country. Authorities are unable to influence what the media is trying to source. The media attack was one of the reasons why we could not stay in one location for too long for at any one time. I remember the first few locations was just overnight. At the time, the next morning, you'll find the media circling your area. The vans are there with the radar disc, and you know that you are being homed in, and we had to be evacuated. We had to be evacuated very quickly to the next uh, location. So that is very unsettling. You would imagine every day you're moving, and at the same time you are trying to go in for interviews, preparing your statements, right? So that period of time was uh, it's very very unsettling. Yeah. And the security issues was is that what a lot of people didn't understand that, and this was being briefed by the lawyers, that some of those Taiwanese who perished in the crash had the families were linked to the triads in Taipei, and that escalated the security issues, right? So not only the media, then you have those issues. With that, the company engaged a security company. So we had bodyguards, something like bodyguards, and our movement were curtailed. Our movement had to be screened, had to be planned. So those issues, yeah, insecurity, aviation human factors. Now this is a body of knowledge which is very interesting. It came about out of this crash. You see, unlike many crashes here, they are unable to really pinpoint why did the pilots behave and perform in that manner, you know, and not until they were able to put it into a human factors argument, and they build it into a human factors legal document that we were able to produce and present it to the prosecutor, and we had to in a way like educate and share with them what the ideas were, the concepts, right? When what went through the minds of the pilots, what was the cognition, the decision making, and all that. Those are issues that they were able to understand a bit more. Today, this is being studied. Today, in fact, even as I provide, I'm called in to do some lectures in Singapore Aviation Academy. We cover this. We cover this portion because there is an effort to allow the legal profession, the legal practitioners to understand that in any incident, in any accident, in any business decision, in fact, also that human factors play a role. Yeah, so we can expand on that again later, right? If anybody picks it up. And medical, psychological, I've already mentioned. Yeah. And Faiz, I'm still unable to move my slides. Okay. The peripheral issues. So I've covered all these issues. This is just a paper, newspaper article that was produced during after the crash. These are some points just to lay out the timeline from the day, crash point, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. So in 2 years, you have all these things, the investigation, the job elimination. 5 years, I had my first public address. I was invited to an IQ symposium in Bangkok. And then in 10 years, I was able to develop the Temasek Aviation Academy, which is in Singapore now. been involved with a lot of work that's in Singapore Aviation Academy, right? And this we put together yesterday, Manisha. 12 years till the present moment. The airline back to flying, supporting them in critical incidents, stress management issues. Been involved and we developed Peripheral Broker. That's a group of like-minded individuals that we bring together. And the idea was that bring young people in to really work to bring more young people in the area of aviation. Maybe develop trips, develop educational journeys, right? And in and around Johor. I'm involved now also with an academy called Asia Aeronautical Academy, which is working together with UHM. Yeah. Let me just go through these last 3 points, then I open up. These are the 3 important points which me and my wife thought we should share. Right. The first one is that the aftermath. Is my voice coming out okay now? Is it okay? Please, are we okay?
Yes, Captain. Your voice is good.
Thank you. Okay. So aftermath. We want people to understand that the aftermath is an extended period of time. It is something that not many people see. It is prolonged. It is a prolonged crisis. What's the relevance to it is today is the same COVID situation that we are facing, right? We realize that we have crises in the airlines. You have turbulence, you have death on board, you have certain issues. That sort of we call it crisis. But this crisis that we are facing now is extended, right? And we realize this. We share this as a family. We walk through that path, and we realize that you need a lot of support. There's a lot of support. That comes to the next point. And for me, many have asked, what are your support systems, your framework? And I always share with them, it starts with the family. It starts with the family, and it starts with the network that I had built, that I had built way before all the crises that I have been through from your school days. That means now, who are your friends in school? Who are your lecturers? Who are your educators? Who's your sports teacher? These were my models. These were my really models that I'm motivated to really come back, build myself again also, right? So to each his own. You have to look out for such models, right? And to remain connected. And there was an effort. There was an effort to remain connected, to remain in touch with these individuals, these parties. And I always share with a lot of the young people, your alumni, your university alumni, your interest group has got an alumni. Those are very, very uh, important bodies, important network that you should build. You should support, you should go back, you should contribute, you should build on it, all right? And you will see how this, somebody shared with me, I think Alia is out there, micro bonding. She calls it micro bonding. How you build these bonds at the very basic level.
Hi, Captain. I'm here.
Hi Alia, thanks for the word, micro bonding. So I learned from her. At the very basic level, how we build. We build these things, and when we say you build a fabric of a nation, this I think is the fabric at our level, at very small scale level, microcosm of the nation. Yeah, you build micro bonds, right? And the last point we like to share is resilience. Really, you look at it, the whole episode, it was actually from a very personal level to an organizational level, right? Now everybody talks about the new normal, but in our work with our crew in the present airline, we have really shared this. We have shared with them that in any crisis, doesn't matter after that whether it's a U-shaped curve or a V-shaped curve in terms of recovery, you can always reach a new normal, right? The new normal is the anchor that we should build to. And I'm going to finish off with a short story. The guy who taught me this anchor is my father. My father is a 94-year-old Javanese man now. He's back in Singapore reading his newspapers every day, right? I remembered when he had his, he survived 3 transient ischemic attacks. That means minor hemorrhages, right? Strokes, yeah. He survived that, and then of course he had his cancer. And I remembered wheeling him into his first treatment for cancer, and he got that cancer, I think, close to 70 plus. And I remembered him turning to me, and you know what he said? Now this old man going in for treatment, he said, "Can you book for me a golf slot?" Everybody knows what's golf, right? He says, "Book for me a golf slot," and he mentioned a date which was about more than 6 months down the road. You know, I'm looking at him and then thinking, I said, "This doesn't make sense. Why? Why?" He's not asking me to book it tomorrow. He's asking me to book it 6 months, more than 6 months down the road. You know, so I couldn't understand at that point in time. But then I realized when he recovered from his cancer, and this old man actually went back, you know, to play his golf. He had used that thinking, that anchor, to pull him through to a new normal, you know, and that is quite amazing. And then I realized, I said, oh, it's got something to do, you know, with the mental process, how we view at things. You know? So that's it. I think, yeah, I will cut it down there. And I'd like to open up, Faiz, to everyone, to all the questions that you have now. And yeah, let's have a dialogue.
Okay, Captain. So we will proceed our Q&A session. So the session will handled by Dosen. So keep on track. Thank you, Dosen.
Thanks, Faiz.
Okay, thank you very much, Captain. I'm Dawson. I will conduct a Q&A session. So, there's a question, Captain. How did you deal with your days after the incident, Captain?
Okay. How did I have to deal with the days right after the incident?
Yeah,
Yeah, that means from day one, from crash point and thereafter. Okay, it is a very big question. So I'm gonna break it up into just what I call the issues during the aftermath, right? Aftermath issues, just immediate issues after the aftermath. As I shared, there were a lot of issues, and it was all running concurrently. The investigation, the prosecution, the employment issues, and all the other issues. The media was chasing us, the security issues was present, and all that. Okay. I remembered we had to rely quite a bit on a lot of support. Not bit. We actually relied on a lot of support of buddies. We were provided with buddies from the airline. These are senior flight crew who had volunteered to come down. They volunteered to come down to be with us on a rotation basis, right? We had, and I think that if you ask me, the support, the strongest support that I had was the family, right? My wife, they flew up. We were able to actually meet the kids from time to time. They flew up one by one, all right? So now all these things happen also in between the interviews that we had to prepare, the movement from hotel to hotel, accommodation to accommodation, right? In the immediate aftermath issues of the crash, right? Is there anything specific that the person that's asking would like to find out? Is there anything
yes,
specific?
Captain.
Yeah. Is there
There's
anything?
one more question from Amira. Captain,
Okay.
have you ever been touched as a murder from the family members? If yes, how you deal with it?
Okay. Answer is yes to Amira. We have been charged or been labeled, you know, as murderers, and this was very close during the immediate issues. They played it out in the media, right? And I remember it lasted for a while, for about 1 to 2 years, because I remember when the investigation report was again released about one and a half years later, things get what do you call that, awaken again, right? And so yes, however, I think for us, we were too focused. We were very focused on how to get our investigation going. We were very focused on supporting the authorities. We were very focused on trying to fight the legal battle. So I must say, it was actually, if you look at it from a psychological perspective, psychosocial perspective, we were just too busy. Right? Yes, we know about the labeling or the stereotyping, but our focus were all on those work in front of us. Right? So we didn't really tend to it, and we knew to a certain extent that that's media, that's media news, and media news has got its agenda. It's got its agenda. Media's got its agenda, right? They want to sell news, all right? So this is pretty interesting, if you study this. In fact, there are some papers written on it, on crisis communications of SQ006, on how they position the flight crew. So they asked themselves, they studied if they were positioned as people with no fault, how would that actually be? How would the marker be as positioned as villains? Which one will sell more? In short, which story will sell more? All right. So that I remember this master's program was written. I read it, and they studied the thing, right? And that's interesting, because that, by reading, by understanding, I rise above. I rise above whatever that is being called, to us. And I understand. And I understand. Okay, because the media has got this way of looking at it, right? So they have the right, because that's their job, that's their expertise, right? And so I understand it, and navigate my way. Yeah.
Okay,
That
thank you,
answer?
Captain.
I hope you are
Another
happy
question.
with that.
Yeah, another question from Dr. Rafida. Understand your suffering. How do you move on? Ever come across my mind to apologize to the deceased family? Captain?
Okay, so there's two parts. One is how to move on. The other one is the idea of apology. Okay, moving on was time. It was actually time dependent. Right, it took a while to understand, and then to put things into perspective. Right. Yeah. But you need a lot. You need a very good support system. And as I shared with you, the family comes in. These are where friends come in. These are where even strangers. You would be surprised that strangers can support you. Right? Never discount anyone. That's one of my lessons learned. Is that never discount anyone. So even strangers are able to support. Right? Now the idea of an apology. Okay, this is the very interesting part. Because from a legal context, and this was briefed to us from a lot earlier, from a legal context, to apologize is there is an admission of guilt from a legal perspective. So if you notice that a lot of the crisis now, the spokesperson positions in such a way that they may not be an apology, right? But that does not mean that we feel sad and we feel remorse. There's actually tremendous remorse. There is tremendous devastation. The mind is actually grappling to see, how do I get back to this? How do I see it logically? But again, what is logical for one person may not be logical for us, right? Okay, and this is where aviation human factors, the human factors body of knowledge, did help to a certain extent. I'll share with you. If this was a HF lecture, usually I start off with this why, because this is why human factors. One is this crash, it was a human factors issue. Means if you strictly see it as a legal issue, pilots would have been criminalized and you would have gone down that path, a very traditional path. But with the introduction of human factors, the education of human factors in the judiciary system, that has taken a different different complexion, different outcomes have actually come about, right? And it's interesting. Okay, two. So that's an investigation. So tightly close together. It's the investigation, because the investigation, if you go down the legal path, it is a yes, no, yes, no. I'll give you an example. Did I see the light? No. Did you see this marker board? No. Did you did you see the other board, or did you see the flashing light down here? No. You didn't see anything. Now, that's a very legalistic question, right? Okay. In human factors, the approach is, why didn't you see that light? How come you couldn't see the flashing light? How come you couldn't see the line on the right? And because of the questions, the way they are being positioned, we were able to unearth a lot of issues. For example, truly, there was no painting on the pavement. There was no painting, and that's why you don't see the line. And I remember in our particular case, why didn't you continue straight? Our testimony is that there isn't guiding lights to guide us ahead. The lights actually showed us to a certain direction. So this it's a very, from a HF human factors perspective, to understand why an individual decides and do what he does. Yeah, and that really actually made the difference. Yeah, and the last part, which is most important, I share, is that why HF, it provided a sense of perspective, provided a sense of rationality, something that I could fall back and rationalize, put into perspective, and reason. Because you would imagine ourselves were asking, why did I end up there? Why didn't I go there? You know, as a individual, I'm asking, and I'm so that happened for a long time. So not until human factors was able to put an argument together, we call it an argument or an explanation together, then it made sense to the individual and said, oh, I see. So it is, my decision were based, we think that it is my decision is mine, but your decision is based on a host of parameters, a host of influences, things that influence you to make that decision. Okay? And that's how human factors come to it. And that in itself, presented a very personal question. So Dr. Rafida, right? Who asked the question, right? Was it Dr. Rafida?
Yes, that was
Does
Dr. Rafida, Captain.
Yes.
Captain, if we can take, Captain, you want to say something? Please.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Probably we have Dr. Zhu. Would you like to ask Captain directly, perhaps? We invite Dr. Zhu to put her questions ahead. Are you in, Dr. Zhu?
Thank you, Captain. I'm Dr. Rafida. Thank you for the answer just now. Sorry.
Thanks for the question, Doctor. Yeah.
Just now, yes. Thank you.
Okay, I'm inviting, or anybody else would like to ask question directly to the to our captain when Dr. Zhu is coming back.
Oh, there's a
Alright.
question from
Yes.
Juraida. Yeah, there's a question. Okay.
Hello.
Dr. Zhu?
Yes.
Is it Dr. Zhu?
Yes, I think so. Yes.
Yes, Dr. Zhu.
you are you are in the military. So is there any of those experience that actually built you up as a person today, and especially in that circa 2000 2003? Because this is like an old story, part of your if you can call it a black history, right? So how do your experience in military actually help you in coping today, and also especially during around those incidents, on how you actually I don't know, fight with the government, prove yourself in the court, and how do you use that experience to how do I say um, to relate to what you have experienced, and how do you tackle uh, the victims' family members? So if you can share. Yeah.
Okay. This is many questions, but these are very good questions. Let me take the first one while I still remember. Military experience, how the military experience translates to a contribution to what has happened. I remember the military invited me back. The Singapore military invited me in 2006 to share the experience. And same question was brought up by one of the senior commanders. He said, "So Serrano, what is it that you can share with us now that you have done in the military uh, that led to that outcome? That brought to a certain outcome that night." And I remembered, I gave him a very simple example. I gave a very simple example. I said, in the military, we had to jump a lot. We had to jump. It's a very simple jump. We had to jump from the tunnel, the tree tunnel. The tree tunnel is actually the military vehicle, the big military vehicle that we always at the back, and then we have to jump down. We have to jump from the helicopters when we do heli insertion. You have to jump and you have to trust yourself. Sometimes you can't see. Sometimes it's daytime. Sometimes it's nighttime. Sometimes it's very difficult under simulated enemy fire. So everything is always in a rush. And I remember saying that that night I had to jump. There came a point where I went back from the cockpit to the door one left. We call it. No, we're in the upper deck. 747 has got 2 levels. So we were the cockpit is actually the upper deck. I went to the door one left. I remembered, in training, you are always taught when you get to the door, you look at the slide, thereafter fold your arms or put it in front, jump with your leg extended and all that. I went to the door, there was no slide. There was no slide. And I remembered, I said, it's so dark. I peered out of the door. I saw debris on fire on the left side from the wing. And I told myself, I said, this is not a good option. Quickly went to see the upper deck door one right, which is right across. I went right across. I remember the aircraft was slightly tilted, so I had to sort of clamber up a bit and then go to the door. I look up, the door is dark. This side is completely dark. And because it's tilted, you cannot see what's below. But you could see debris again, small pockets of fire, and you could see uh, thick smoke, very thick fumes. And I looked at it, I said, how to jump? I remember at that point of time, the brain was racing. It's not like this that I can explain what I see and how I feel. So, and all the time it's panic. Yeah. So I'm very clear. I always tell people that there is panic, there is fear. All those feelings are normal in such a situation. I went back to the other door and I looked at it. I said, this seems to be a better option. Devil and Deep Blue Sea, both are bad, but that seemed to be the better option. And I remember shouting to the passengers at that point of time. I said, stay here, stay here. I remember I had a torchlight very clearly. I put the torchlight had a, what do you call it? Had a wristband, some sort of wristband. I put it around my wrist and I said, you all stay here. And I remember trying to kick a melted material, some sort of material. Eventually, after the investigation, we realized that the slide had melted because of the fire. It melted to become lumpy pieces of plastic with wires straddling around. And I remember it was stepping closer, trying to give a kick. And in my mind, I said, this is not going to do it. And I jumped. And I decided, reason is that the cabin was being filled up at the moment with fumes, very thick fumes. And with every breath that we were taking in very thick fumes. Sensation would be just some water on one arm, and you try to sniff. You know, when the water gets into your nostrils and it hits your, you feel that sort of a sensation was already coming. And I decided I had to jump. So when I did that jump, I felt it was not a jump, it was a fall. It just fall, and because you don't know how far down, you know. When I did it, I remember feeling my legs again. I said, I'm okay. And then after that, I proceeded. I remember looking up again and pushed on, trying to evacuate the other passengers. So that is the case in this point which I shared with my military buddies. He said, I jumped. And the only sense of confidence, that little bit of sense of confidence, was because I knew I had jumped from a height that we don't normally do every day. It was through the military training. It was through a military life that I had gone through. And now I look back, I said, hey, now I thank for that experience, that it looks so simple. It was just a jump. Every day I had to jump from the vehicle, from different locations. So yeah, so that's one. There are many other aspects. There are many aspects in terms of evacuation, because you have to understand, in the Singapore military, we were trained to evacuate soldiers. I had the opportunity to command men to go into missions with them, and we have casualties, actual casualties, where we have to evacuate them from the jungle. We have to do a clearing, and we call it heli in. We have done evacuation from deep jungle out to the main roads, that kind of stuff. And that evacuation experience, again, same. Direct translation to the evacuation experience at night. So the way I share it is that, yes, I have been through an exercise, because that's an exercise. I've been a person involved in crisis, managing a crisis, in dealing with a crisis. But this was another crisis, was a different crisis. Evacuation is pretty much the same, but the aftermath is different, right? And in those issues, same. You have values like perseverance, holding on, fighting spirit, all those things which we have shared. We try to imbue into the young soldiers, into the young leaders also, right? You see that coming through again. That we have to practice. And then you see and you realize that these values are real, actually real, right? That you have to take certain pain. You have to accept that pain to go through it. Yeah. So I hope that answers, Dr. Zhu.
Yes, thank you, Captain. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Captain. So, anyone has question to ask, you can unmute yourself and ask Captain directly. Captain?
Yes, Dawson.
Yeah, I have some question.
Sure.
You were instructor under house arrest for 2 years. Can we know the situation during the period of house arrest? Is the captain totally cannot hang out or working?
Oh, okay, this is interesting. May I know where did you get that information?
Yeah, from the slide. Just now we saw the slide.
Okay. All right. Let me just go to the background a little bit about this condition. Right. This was the time when we had returned back to Singapore from Taipei after having operated with the authorities. We went back to Singapore, and then of course the legal proceedings have not completed yet, and therefore there may be a requirement. There may be a requirement for the pilots to return back to Taipei, and therefore until such time they return for a hearing or for their legal proceeding, right? There is interest to have the pilots to be monitored at all times, right? And I remembered again, it was a cooperation between the pilots and the company and the security system on how we should be monitored. It came to an understanding. It came to an arrangement that the pilots are to stay in Singapore, so within a state, right? Unable to travel out, right? Unable to travel out, and then we to be monitored every day. Be monitored every day. That means there will be service personnel to come and physically view the presence of the individuals of the flight crew in their household. Yeah. Now it is not strictly a home arrest because we were allowed to move out. We were allowed to move out of the home. We can go out, buy things. We can do sports. We can meet my family. So those sort of activities were still allowed. But yes, the question is, and again, I didn't see this until I had forums where people asked me, said, how did you, how do you last that, that period of time? It was almost 2 years that we cannot move anywhere. We have to be home at a certain point of time to be monitored. Yeah. It's pretty much like now, isn't it? The pandemic. Yeah. And I remembered every day, you would have to plan something, you would have to plan something to do. And but I was lucky then. In fact, now I'm here in JB alone in this house. Back then I was with my family, with my kids, and I had time to spend with them, to bring them to school. I had time to do my own sports. But again, during that time, we were very busy in the process of preparing our legal battle. So every day we were meeting, right, either on the phone or physically in an office somewhere in a location. We would meet, we would discuss. We would have to go in to meet the lawyers. We would have to go in to meet the company, our bosses even. So there was things to do every day. Yeah, and that kept us. If you say that kept us survive and sharp, because there was a purpose to survive at that point of time, was to fight that battle. Yeah. So yeah. So it was. I won't say it wasn't difficult, but neither was it easy. Neither was it easy. Yeah. So I share a lot with young people today. In career talks, they say how to become a flight crew, how to fly. And the first word that I will share is focus. Focus. So at that point of time, the focus, I knew what I had to focus to. Yeah. In flying, I will tell you the same thing. All right. At any point of time, you have to focus on certain things. Of course, you can multitask, but at any one point of time, the brain works in that way. It focuses on a certain thing, and there are things that become secondary. Right? So that's the direction I would take. Does that answer, Dawson?
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you, Captain. That's the last question, and then we're going to end this Q&A session. The question is, Captain, you have been to many talks to discuss about this incident. How did you gather all the courage to talk about it publicly?
How do I get the knowledge
The courage,
or the
you gather all
courage?
the courage, yeah, to talk about it.
How do I? Maybe can I let Nisha answer this? Nisha, are you still there?
Hi, Captain. I'm here.
Hi, Nisha.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Nisha. I think from Captain Cyrano's experience, he finds the good instead of staying in the bad state of mind. So he shares his experience. So this courage actually, um, with the intention of building other people, and it has also personally affected me through his incidents. And after I met him at AirAsia, I was one of his audience in his talk. And with his courage to share whatever he has experienced, it has also personally affected me and gave me courage to actually stand out and do the best that I can be. So that's my opinion. Back to you, Captain.
Thanks, Nisha. Dawson is yeah. So courage is different to different people, I suppose.
Uh,
You know, yeah. I don't see it. I don't see it like that. You know, to me, I'm just doing what I think is right, lah. And even that is my right, my perspective of right. You know, I just move and I try to understand feedback from as many people as possible. The people that are close to me, my wife, my family, my kids, even my kids. You know, I get feedback even from the people that I work with, be it in the airline, be it with projects, with students, be it with industry partners, be it with academics. And I love to be in touch with academics. And that's why, Dr. Helen, when you wore that uniform and came into the aircraft, all right, you know, was the first thing in my mind. I said, another academic, you know, all right. And I grab you, all right, I grab you. I remember I grabbed you. I said, "Hey, UTM, you know, you remember that very clearly, right? Yeah, yeah." So straight away, I said, you know, and that's how it is. That's how I looked at it, and I knew that from a academic position, from academic pathway, we learn a lot more things. You know, yeah, we learn a lot. We dare to question. I dare to come forward now to share with you in an academic setting. I would be very, very careful if, let's say, the Law Society in Singapore invites Rano, come in and share with us. I tell them pay first. I don't tell them pay first. I come in and talk. You know, I got to assure myself first before I go in and talk to such a society. But in an academic landscape like it is, I feel that I should come. This is a time to plow back. This is a time to nurture the young minds because you know. And this is where you have to take it up next to figure out, to design the future, to design the new normal, you know. So I'm just doing it from that perspective. Yeah. Not much about courage or that lah. You know? Not that I know of. Not that I know of. Yeah. Thanks, Dawson.
okay, thank you, Captain. I think Q&A session will end here, and we thank Captain Siano for answering all the questions so that we can get more understanding about the incident of SQ006. And we also learned a lot of lessons as well. Thank you, Captain.
Thank you. Thanks, Dawson. Thank you, everyone. But I must apologize for the initial hiccup.
All right.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you, Captain Shirano. Speaker, which is Captain Shirano and his team, Terbang Troker, for taking out of their busy duties to join this program. Thank you also to our Dean of Azman Hashim International Business School, Prof. Dr. Nur Naha binti Abu Mansur, and Prof. Madia Dr. Nur Hayati binti Zakwan as a Director, Business Advisor. And do not forget to our lecturer, Dr. Helen, who has guided us to make sure the program successful, and in University Technology Malaysia for taking this happen with support. I also like to thank all first year and second year students and staff of Azman Hashim International Business Schools of UTM. Not forget to all audience for attending this program today. Finally, congrats and thanks to all my community, SBSD 2013 students for all their hard work, ensuring this program runs so smoothly and excellent. We have done an outstanding job. Let me once again express my sincere thanks to all for coming and for contributing to discussion. Thank you again. So if anything Dr. Helen want to talk, I pass to Dr. Helen. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Captain. Thank you, first and foremost, my awesome committees, 36 of them. They're driven nuts preparing this in the background, few days of rehearsal. Thank you so much. You have pulled this through. I'm proud of our students of AHIPS and, of course, our special guest, Captain Cyrano. Thank you. We will look forward to more collaborations with you in the future. We have so much to talk about, right? Thank you very much. And to close this, Captain, the final say is yours.
Wow. I think there's a lot more to learn from this. Again, I shared this with the organizing committee. Let's revisit this again and learn what we have learned today. I'm as well learning from you. I'm learning from you. I'm learning from whatever that's happening before me. Thank you very much for this opportunity for me and TNT.
For all participants that already participate on us for this event, this one is the QR code for you to get your merit. And we already shared the link in the chat. You got two options here. Either you want to scan this QR code and you can click the link in the chat. But make sure we want to close it early. So after this meeting, maybe you can probably go for fill in the Google form. So if got any mistake from us, a technical error of everything, I hope you will forgive us and thank you and see you again. Right.
Shall we take picture, please? Can everybody just switch your video?
Right.
Can we unshare? Can we unshare the document? So picture time, everyone. Let's get on board. Yeah.
Wow.
All right, I'm on. So, all right, can we have our cameraman ready? Christopher, are you there? Yes.
Now where's my arrow here? My fingers.
Wow, so good to see so many faces. Wonderful, thank you. Christopher, do your magic. Christopher and Nish, whoever, both of you. Please guide us whenever you take your picture. Is it cheese or whatever? Then we are ready with our best smiles of the day.
So, okay, so hi, Christopher. Okay, I think everyone is ready now.
You can scroll. I leave it to you, the expert, Chris. This is Chris, our main photographer. I don't even know where I am. Where am I? Okay. My video is off. Ada tak best ni sekali lagi, Chris. Macam tak off video. Okay dah, anda. Sila Chris. Okay, ada. Chris, hitunglah lama post ni. Okay, thank you everybody. Much love. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you guys got any technical problem with the Google form, can directly go to our WhatsApp link in the chat. So try to contact our community. So if anything is good, so I hope you have a very nice day today. And then selamat berpuasa to Muslim.
Yes.
Bye. Thank you everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Go buy everything nanti tu. Baru tunggu sehat. Oh, tak ada voice ni, unmute.
How are you?
Hello, happy to see you.
Ya, I baru 3 hari naik kerja ya. After a long